In the 1950s and 1960s, the civil rights movement swept America. Sit-ins were organized, marches and protests were commonplace in cities, and African Americans demanded fair and equal treatment in American society. As a result, many public facilities were desegregated, as were public schools and even the U.S. military. These changes took place all over the U.S., including Missouri.
In the 1950s, efforts towards desegregation in Missouri helped African Americans gain rights in the Midwest. In 1954, the Swope Park swimming pool in Kansas City, Missouri was desegregated after a federal district court judge ruled that its segregation was a violation of the 14th Amendment. Despite fears of racial violence related to the desegregation of the pool, the process went smoothly, and no conflict between races was reported after the integration. The desegregation of the Swope Park pool inspired other integration efforts, including the Kansas City Public School District desegregation several years later.
The desegregation of the University of Missouri housing was a long-fought battle by the community and students alike. Henry Rollins, the leader of the Congress of Racial Equality, or better known as CORE, hosted many discussions with Chancellor John W. Schwada. Schwada was a difficult man to deal with, as it was clear throughout discussions that he wanted to pursue his own agenda of keeping the university housing system segregated. Schwada had even accused Henry Rollins of threatening the university with an ultimatum just to support his own racist agenda. CORE conducted marches throughout the campus that included students and faculty. Eventually, the segregation of housing had ended, with the support for change was too much for the university and Schwada to handle.
Columbia Conference on Religion and Race came together on October 6, 1963, to discuss the injustices that people of color experience in Columbia, Missouri. The group also wanted to find solutions to these issues. Their main focus was to achieve a sense of unity of spirit and the bond of peace. The group used religion as a basis for their activism. They believed that a person could not be a true worshiper of God if they looked at some other person as subhuman because of their appearance. The main themes that the conference focused on were housing, public accommodations, employment, recreation, and organized religious groups. The conference members believed that these were the main areas that minorities face the most discrimination. Their purpose was to exert a moral influence which will affect the public opinion and give courage and give strength to all religious organizations and their members so that they may provide leadership in actively seeking out and correcting all local injustices.
For a long time, schools were segregated in America, specifically Missouri, during the 20th century. One thing that helped change that was the S-2980 bill for Missouri, which was very vital to the civil rights era, and it's not only about desegregating the school system, but instead about the improvement of schools across the nation. The bill digs deep to try to help get scholars better education by attempting to set the standards for teachers higher. The bill focuses on teachers who are underqualified so that they can receive proper training. In addition, the bill focuses in on students who have been deprived of quality education, which is extremely helpful for African Americans during this time. Therefore, the quality of teachers will improve and help students who struggle. In spite of all these efforts, cutting funding for segregated schools was probably the most important factor, because without any funding, the school would not exist in the first place. These many goals of the bill help make life a lot better for future generations who can experience a good education without being discriminated against for the most part, and most importantly, getting the freedom to go to any school of their choosing.
The acts of the Tuskegee Airmen helped change the mindset of those who believed African Americans lacked bravery and mentally incapable of combat. Their acts opened the door for many other African American pilots, allowing them to successfully fly the most advanced fighter aircraft, effectively demonstrating that they were equally as capable as whites to fight in combat, and essentially broke barriers that inhibited African Americans, like segregation of the military. On July 26, 1948, President Truman announced the integration of the armed forces, and with this victory, the civil rights movement could further its effort. Young African American students were particularly invested in the civil rights movement. The outcome of this era would be the ultimate deciding factor for their futures. These young, motivated activists invested a substantial amount of time and energy into the movement. They organized and participated in protests, sit-ins, voter registrations, conferences, and the like. Students, even at the University of Missouri, could be seen starting up great projects and groups to advance their cause. They emulated the work of great leaders of their time and took it upon themselves to fight for their own political and social liberation.